The scene begins in the aftermath of an intense battle, with Aang, the protagonist, grappling with regret over his title as humanity's mightiest warrior. As he faces death, he feels unworthy of the honor, even though he successfully defeated 7 of the Fin demons. However, an 8th Fin demon, mentioned in the ancient King's Stele, still remains. Aang reflects on humanity's failure to truly comprehend the demon's power and blames himself for not fully living up to his responsibilities. As the 8th demon approaches, Aang fears it seeks to mutilate his corpse in revenge for the deaths of its subordinates. With his strength fading, Aang succumbs to death, feeling it consume him like an all-encompassing darkness. Moments later, a faint glimmer of light pierces the void, and Aang opens his eyes. He finds himself as a young boy, surrounded by people in an unfamiliar room. Bewildered, he looks at his hands and realizes this doesn't feel like a dream. When he touches his face, he is shocked it is no longer his. His ruggedly handsome features and powerful physique are gone. Deeply unsettled, Aang wonders where he is and what has happened to him. He soon learns he is in the urban district of Helos, where the 3rd captain, Yat, is addressing a gathered crowd. Yat explains the significance of the warrior examination, emphasizing that a true warrior embodies protection and hope. He recounts a tale from the year 3069, when the planet faced doomsday. During that era, 6 colossal structures, known as the ancient King Steles, descended from the skies, bringing with them creatures now called demons. These demons began slaughtering humanity, and after a desperate struggle for survival, humans developed grafting technology. By recycling demon cores and equipping themselves with this innovation, they temporarily gained powers equivalent to the demons. 60 years prior, Aang, humanity's mightiest warrior, led the world's forces against the largest demonic horde ever recorded. This great battle raged for weeks, turning the world into a blood-soaked battlefield. Eventually, the warriors triumphed, delivering a decisive blow to the demons and granting humanity 6 decades of peace and progress. Yat's story details the cost of victory, which came at the sacrifice of countless warriors, including Aang himself. It was reported that Aang had perished while fighting several of the most powerful Fin demons. This event marked a turning point for humanity, inspiring it to rise from fear and darkness, determined to forge a brighter future. The conflict became known as the Battle of Dawn. Listening to the account, Aang is startled. He remembers the 8th Fin demon and knows this story isn't entirely accurate. Although he was slipping into unconsciousness during his final moments, he distinctly recalls the presence of the 8th demon. Even now, humanity remains unaware of the demon's true power. Yat concludes his speech by praising the fallen warriors, emphasizing their legacy of hope and protection. He asks the crowd if they understand what it means to be a warrior, and they respond affirmatively. Aang, however, mutters that something feels wrong. Hearing this, Yat approaches Aang and remarks that he seems to lack a clear understanding of a warrior's principles. He demands Aang's name. Aang hesitates, uncertain whether to reveal his true identity as the fabled mightiest warrior, knowing it sounds unbelievable given his frail, unfamiliar body. After learning Aang's name, Yat expresses disapproval, calling it disrespectful for someone so weak and clueless to bear such a legendary name. In frustration, Yat strikes Aang, leaving him stunned by the realization of just how feeble his current body is. Never before had he imagined being in such a vulnerable state. Yat warns Aang that he will be closely observing him during the upcoming warrior examination. He then instructs everyone to proceed to the examination grounds for their physical assessments. A young man named Lance checks on Aang and introduces himself, expressing his delight in meeting him. However, another candidate, Lu, angrily reprimands Lance for addressing Aang by the great name, declaring that Aang is unworthy of it. She mocks Aang, questioning whether he still believes he possesses the same strength just because he shares the name of the mightiest warrior. Taken aback by her arrogance, Aang challenges her audacity to speak so dismissively of his name. Lance explains that Lu is a prominent figure among their group of warrior candidates, known as the Salan Rakasi. She hails from the renowned Sito noble family of Helos. In the urban area, Aang recognized the Sato name as vaguely familiar. Lance helped him to his feet but accidentally snapped a photo of the moment, joking that it captured a mesmerizing bromance. Tenny and Lu paused to glance at the picture before Lu dismissed them and told them to move on. Aang then asked Lu who she was, and Lance curiously asked if Lu had taken the photo. Aang, however, urged them to focus on more important matters. Misa, who had been observing the exchange, admitted to taking the picture. She introduced herself and explained that the moment captivated her and served as great material for her work. The scene then shifted to the physical assessment field. Aang, despite the frailty of his current body, thought to himself that he was still humanity's mightiest warrior. He found it amusing to listen to others talk about what it meant to be a warrior in front of him. Confident in his abilities, Ong was determined to surprise everyone with his results. The referee announced that the first physical test would be a long-distance endurance run. As the warriors took their positions and the race began, Ong aimed to finish first and set a new record. However, to his dismay, he finished dead last, completely exhausted. He realized his body was in much worse condition than he'd expected. The other participants laughed at his performance. The second test, an explosive arm strength challenge, went no better. Ong not only finished last again but also sprained his wrist. The third test involved explosive leg strength, requiring participants to jump. Aang's jump was pitiful, only half the distance of Lu's. She mocked him, calling him an idiot. When the referee announced that Ong was in last place for every test, achieving the worst results in history, he added that Ong was at risk of being eliminated from the examination altogether. Ong was devastated by his failures. Meanwhile, Misa kept taking photos, thinking this might be the last time she would capture moments of Ong and Lance together. The referee approached Yacht to recommend eliminating Ong from the second round based on his abysmal performance. However, Yacht decided to give Ong one more chance, stating that while he seemed hopeless, he deserved to proceed to the second round, which would likely be his last. The warriors were informed that the second round, which would test their synchronization with the grafting equipment, was about to begin. Ong saw this as his chance to redeem himself. He recalled that in the past, his synchronization rate had consistently been above 96%. Unlike physical strength, synchronization relied heavily on willpower, and Aang was determined to silence those who mocked him. Examining the grafting equipment, Aang noted how much it had advanced in the 60 years since his time. The equipment was lighter and more refined, which gave him a renewed sense of purpose. The tests began. Lu achieved the highest synchronization rate among the candidates, hitting an impressive 39%. Her success was unsurprising, given her rigorous training with the martial family. Others admired her, with one eager candidate even expressing interest in making her his girlfriend. Confident but composed, Lu headed to the lounge, where she was quietly thrilled by her results but resolved to maintain a low profile. Ong was impressed by Lu's performance. Lance commented on Lu's strength and fiery determination, which Ong also sensed. Lance then pointed out that Ong didn't seem nervous. Ong replied calmly that he was used to such situations. As the assessment continued, many first-time candidates struggled with the grafting process. The demon cores caused significant strain on their bodies, and some were overwhelmed by the pain, forcing them to withdraw. To pass, candidates needed a minimum synchronization rate of 10%. Lance managed to achieve a 24% synchronization rate, which was respectable. Misa also scored well with a 30% rate, earning her a passing score. Yacht noted that the batch included some promising rookies. A girl remarked that 6 warriors, including Misa, had demonstrated exceptional potential. Yacht acknowledged their promise but noted that some participants still lacked the necessary qualities to excel as warriors. Finally, it was Aang's turn. The crowd mocked him, speculating that his synchronization rate would be as disastrous as his earlier results. Aang, however, remained confident, thinking that their laughter would soon turn to shock. For the test, Aang chose the Crimson Core, known for enhancing physical strength. He reflected on the 6 types of demon cores: crimson, yellow, green, blue, and 2 rarer types that could be salvaged from the battlefield. He believed that achieving a high synchronization rate required tremendous willpower. The stronger the willpower, the more power one could draw from the core and the better control they could exert over it. Aang was asked if he was ready, and he confidently agreed. As the synchronization process began, a powerful reaction rippled through the lounge, leaving Lu surprised to discover it was coming from Aang. But just as he prepared to strike the final blow, something unexpected emerged from the ground roots that killed the demon. As everyone tried to process what had just happened, a one-fin demon suddenly appeared. Recognizing the new threat, Yacht quickly instructed the warriors to fall back. The recruits complied, retreating in a panic. Yoshi and Joel also moved to engage the one-fin demon, while Yoshi urged the hunters to remain calm and retreat to Yacht, who promised to protect them until they reached town. The one-fin demon, however, was unlike anything they had encountered before. It remarked that one of the humans felt like a demon. Aang and his 3 teammates were quickly trapped, leaving them to wonder what the demon was talking about. Lu feared the no-fin demons they had just faced were no match for this creature and worried they would be torn apart in seconds. Ong realized his current body was not equipped to face a one-fin demon, and he was overwhelmed with fear, something he hadn't felt in years. The one-fin demon easily incapacitated the four of them and began carrying them away. Joel and Yoshi rushed to confront it, but the demon fled underground with the captives. The remaining warriors tried to follow, but the trail abruptly ended. Yoshi wondered how a one-fin demon could have appeared so suddenly, given that Yacht had checked the area for days without detecting any issues. This kind of incident had never occurred before. Yacht soon arrived, questioning where the four warriors had gone and why they had stopped tracking the demon. Joel urged Yacht to stay calm, noting that the trail had gone cold. Yoshi explained that the one-fin demon appeared to have descended deeper into uncharted territory and that rushing blindly would only worsen the situation. Yacht, recalling the tragic loss of his brother, pounded the ground in frustration, blaming himself for the danger faced by the four captured warriors. Joel suggested they return to town, predicting that chaos might have already erupted in their absence. He proposed organizing search teams to sweep the surrounding area and ensure no more one-fin demons were present. Yoshi agreed, acknowledging that no one could have anticipated such an outcome. She emphasized the importance of staying calm, even though she understood how difficult it was for Yacht. Yacht stood, telling Yoshi and Joel to return to town while he continued searching for the four warriors. He assured them that he would find the missing candidates. Joel began to protest, but Yoshi interrupted, firmly instructing Yacht to return before sunset. Yacht reluctantly agreed and ventured into the fog. As Yacht disappeared into the mist, Yoshi remarked that it was impossible to change his mind. Joel agreed, adding that Yacht had never forgiven himself for losing his younger brother to a demon. Yoshi reflected that the four captured candidates were likely the same age Yacht's brother would have been if he were still alive, and they probably reminded him of his loss. The scene shifted to a dark cave, where Ong and the others were tied up. Ong woke up, confused about their location, but was relieved to find that everyone was still alive. Suddenly, the demon appeared from the shadows, commenting that Ong was the first to wake and seemed different from the others. The demon was curious about Aang's identity, noting that his aura resembled that of a demon even stronger than the one-fin demons. Aang demanded to know what the demon was talking about. In response, a red light emanated from Aang's body as he broke free from his restraints and charged at the demon. The demon was killed by Aang's swift attack. Reflecting on his diminished strength, Aang lamented that, in his prime, he could have severed the demon's head before it even reacted. Now, he needed to rescue the others. As Aang observed the one-fin demon, he noted that its red core granted it incredible agility and speed, but this came at a cost. Its joints were vulnerable, lacking the thick protective skin found on other demons. Just then, the demon extended spikes from its hands and stabbed Aang. Realizing the joints were its weak spot, Aang resolved to exploit this vulnerability. He gritted his teeth, pushing against the demon's hand to free himself, and declared that he had slain countless one-fin demons before. The demon retaliated with a brutal kick, injuring Aang and leaving him bleeding. It taunted him, revealing that, as a wood-type demon, it could regenerate its body, a trait Aang thought only green core demons possessed. Aang was stunned, wondering if demons had evolved over the past 60 years. The demon accused Aang of underestimating its abilities and used roots to pierce through his body, drawing him closer. Grabbing Aang by the head, the demon mocked him, claiming that he still didn't understand its true power. Aang felt the roots tearing through his organs, causing excruciating pain and making it nearly impossible to breathe. He was overwhelmed with regret, fearing for the lives of the other three captives. As Aang's strength waned, he was flooded with memories of his past life, when he felt helpless as others died alongside him. Consumed by guilt and sorrow, he lamented his weakness and failure to protect his companions. Sensing Aang's vulnerability, the one-fin demon decided to consume him to evolve further. However, just as the demon prepared to devour Aang, another presence within Aang stirred. A voice, belonging to a demon inside him, questioned the one-fin demon's intentions. It mused that if Aang were to die, the demon's plans would fail. Frustrated, it decided to act, despite having only a fragment of its consciousness remaining. Suddenly, the one-fin demon sensed an overwhelming and terrifying aura emanating from Aang. A massive surge of energy erupted, radiating outward and shaking the area. The one-fin demon, paralyzed with fear, speculated whether the entity emerging from Aang was a five-fin or six-fin demon. The pressure intensified as the source of the energy revealed itself. It was the eight-fin demon. Declaring itself the strongest red core demon and the king of all one-fin demons, the eight-fin demon struck terror into the one-fin demon, which addressed it respectfully as Crimson. Meanwhile, Yacht continued his search, dispatching every demon he encountered. Pausing for a moment, he realized he had only encountered 2 no-fin demons in the area and saw no sign of the missing 4 candidates. Resolving to keep searching until sunset, he suddenly noticed a massive energy flux in the distance. Speculating that the candidates might be involved, he decided to investigate. Back in the cave, Ong, now embodying the 8-fin demon's power, expressed his shock at awakening in such a dark, sunless place. He demanded answers from the 1-fin demon, asking if he had truly disappeared and whether the other 5-fin demons were still reigning as kings. The 1-fin demon confirmed that little had changed since then. Ong, filled with rage, recalled the events of 60 years ago. He questioned whether the demons had forgotten the devastation they had caused him and his people. Overwhelmed by his fury, Ong attacked the 1-fin demon, venting his frustration at everything the demons had done to him. Ong lamented that, despite choosing the body of the mightiest warrior as his vessel, it had proven to be weak and unfit for his potential after traveling through time. This left him deeply disappointed. Frustrated, Ong reflected on how he was wasting the last remnants of his consciousness on a trivial situation. If he wanted to manifest fully again, he would have to wait until the mightiest warrior gradually regained all of his memories and strength. The final demon explained that the fin memory Ong referred to was tied to their evolution. Ong noted that the protrusions on their knees and the number of fins they possessed indicated their rank or level. For demons to grow new fins and evolve, they required fin memory, a unique trait of their kind. This trait made demons inherently stronger than other races. However, their evolution depended on devouring demons of the same level. Similarly, Ong, now inhabiting the body of a human warrior, would need to consume demons of higher levels to awaken his fin memory and progress. The final demon pledged loyalty to the 8-fin demon and promised to serve him with all his abilities. In response, the 8-fin demon dismissed the pledge, stating that the demon was unworthy of serving him and only had value in helping Ong awaken his fin memory. The 8-fin demon revealed that the first stage for Aang's awakening had already been prepared and that he expected Ong not to disappoint him in future endeavors. Once the time was right, the 8-fin demon would awaken from his deep slumber. With that, the 8-fin demon merged back into Ong. As this happened, Ong was flooded with memories of the past. He recalled being gravely injured alongside a boy, with a man standing over them. The man reassured Ong that he wouldn't die because there was someone waiting for him. Ong questioned why the man wasn't dying, noting that his face seemed to be changing. Suddenly, Ong opened his eyes in the present, realizing these were fragmented memories. He was startled and unsure if he was dreaming. The curtains of his room opened, revealing Lu, Nisa, and Lance, who were relieved to see him awake. Ong was shocked to see them, and Nisa immediately noticed a change in his hair. Jokingly, she asked if the demon had taken him to a barber. Confused, Ong asked what she was talking about and then inquired about their well-being, recalling that they had been taken underground. At that moment, Yat entered, noting that Ong seemed to have a full understanding of the situation and asked him to explain what had happened in the cave. The 2 other captains, Yoshi and Joel, were also present. Ong asked why they had come. Yoshi explained that Yat had brought all 4 of them back and teasingly referred to him as Tang Tang. Noticing the confusion on the others' faces, Joel clarified that Yat had found the group unconscious in a cave. He added that it was fortunate they had encountered the 1-fin demon there, otherwise, retrieving everyone would have been much harder. Yoshi explained that the other 3, Lu, Nisa, and Lance, had regained consciousness after some time but had no memory of what had happened in the cave. Only Ong had remained unconscious and had undergone visible changes. She handed him a mirror, pointing out his altered hair, and asked him to try recalling anything from the cave. Ong was shocked by his reflection. He couldn't understand what had happened to him. Everything that had occurred since his time travel felt like a mystery. He remembered being struck in the cave and losing consciousness, but everything after that was a blur. Debating whether to reveal his time-traveling origins, he decided against it. Sharing such an extraordinary truth could create unnecessary complications, and he doubted anyone would believe him. Instead, he resolved to maintain his current identity and focus on uncovering the nature of the strange events surrounding him. Ong explained that he had briefly regained consciousness in the underground cave and recognized his surroundings but had fainted again soon after. He admitted that he didn't know what happened next. Yat wondered if he was overthinking things, but upon discovering the scene in the cave, he had noticed blood splattered on the walls. Joel approached Aang and pointed out something curious. Aang's name was the same as that of the mightiest warrior. While Joel acknowledged Aang's impressive fighting skills, he also noted areas where he seemed to be lacking. He asked Aang if he had prior experience fighting demons. Ong denied this, explaining that, while he was interested in combat and had conducted extensive research on demons, he had no first-hand experience fighting them. Yoshi commented that Aang's knowledge and potential were impressive and advised Yacht not to give up on training him, as he was clearly a promising warrior. Finally, Ong inquired about the status of his warrior examination. Misa informed Ong that they had passed the examination and were now officially part of the Stilt team. Lance added that, due to recent incidents, Yacht had organized them into a group of 4. Lu pointed out that they were falling behind compared to the other squads. Yacht explained that the squads earned points by completing missions, and since Ong had been unconscious for 3 days, their team hadn't earned any points yet. Ong was shocked to learn that he had been unconscious for so long. The next day, the 4 of them prepared, dressed in their official warrior uniforms, and gathered in town. The citizens whispered among themselves about the new warriors who had arrived 3 days ago. Yacht congratulated them on becoming official warriors and commended them for surviving an encounter with a one-fin demon. He explained that he would be leading their squad, one of 9 under his command, and expressed hope that their team would stand out among the others. Ong thought the new rules seemed stricter than before. Lance asked Ong if he had really never heard of the squad leaderboard. It appeared Ong was unfamiliar with the system, and currently, their squad was ranked at the very bottom. Yacht then explained how the leaderboard worked and revealed that squads at the bottom of the rankings faced monthly punishments, such as being assigned to clean the town until the next month's rankings were announced. Ong immediately understood why the town was so clean. Yacht appointed Lu as the leader of their group and asked if there were any objections. Lance and Misa had no issues with the decision, but Ong silently wondered if they would regret not making him the leader. Lu, however, was excited about her new role. Yacht instructed them to start taking missions from the board to gain experience and familiarize themselves with their nano-wings during battle. He added that they could come to him if they encountered any problems. After Yacht left, Lu suggested they check out the available missions since they needed to catch up with the other squads. Misa, however, pointed out something more pressing: they needed to take a group picture. They quickly posed for the photo before heading to the mission board. Later, Yacht discussed the cave incident with Joel and Yoshi. Yoshi noted that, as Yacht had mentioned earlier, no-fin demons were found near the cave. Instead, the no-fin demons there had died violently,